All right, kicking off another brand new hour here, the Steve Gruber Show, coming to you live from the heart of America, delivering a daily dose of reality and truth from the heart of this nation and rejecting the nonsense of the left. We'll fight for you from the foxhole of freedom every single day. And without delay, I want to get to my next guest because she has been reporting for some time that Joe Biden is not just ill, but he's on his deathbed. I said a while back that I believed that Donald Trump would be the 48th president of the United States. I said it from a gut feeling. Laura Loomer did it from a feeling of facts and following the breadcrumbs and everything else. She joins me now from Florida. Laura, good to have you on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciate it. Look, Joe Biden is in a grave situation, according to all of your reporting over the last few days. It's getting worse. You say he's in dramatic decline today. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, so I reported on July 5th that Joe Biden had actually suffered a medical emergency on Air Force One. And upon publication of my report, which, was seen over 20 million times, people, for some reason, they said they wanted to trust the White House press pool for the first time, even though these people have been lying to us for years on end. And so you saw that the Post had a community note, and then people tried to discount the reporting simply because, the Biden White House says that Joe Biden's fine. Joe Biden's fine, so we have to believe the White House, when we know that they've been lying for the last 5 years about Joe Biden's health. We saw in 2020 that Joe Biden had dementia. There were publications and reports coming out about how he was not mentally fit to serve back then. And what we've witnessed over the last 4.5 years in our country is the biggest cover-up, in my opinion, of the United States presidency in the history of our nation.
I think it's the greatest scandal ever.
Joe Biden.
Yeah, I think it's the greatest scandal in the history of this country, and that's incredibly important. That's why your reporting is so important. Now, I want to point out something you just posted, I guess, a few hours ago. The delegation of responsibilities of the President of the United States, because here's the thing. We haven't seen Joe Biden in days. The last time we saw him, he was barely creeping down the back stairs of Air Force One in slow motion, and he doesn't move quick to begin with. He looked terrible. And now you say that he's having his powers delegated to the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken. How frightening is that Anthony Blinken would have his hands on the levers of power?
Well, exactly, and this is what's not being reported is what I posted last night, of course, and that's the fact that since the medical emergency on July 5th, you can see the date, the first delegation memorandum was posted on July 9th. And this is not a conspiracy theory. These are actual documents available on the White House website for people to see themselves that I've posted screenshots of. And so if you look at the first screenshot, it says July 9th, which is, of course, 4 days after the first medical emergency on Air Force One. Now we're seeing July 22nd, which is now several days after this other medical emergency, which, I don't really see how the reporting is any different than my reporting because, I guess people like to pick and choose depending on who has more access in the media, right? Like it's this kind of elitist idea of who's considered to be a real journalist and who isn't. But the fact of the matter is everything that I have posted about July 5th has been corroborated. And you've seen that there has been an expedited move to have this transition of power since July 5th. They said that Joe Biden was going to be the nominee. But ever since this medical emergency on July 5th, you have seen the White House speaking out of both sides of their mouth.
No question. In fact, if I may, it's been clearly reported now that Nancy Pelosi, for the last 3 weeks, which lines up exactly with your date, has been pushing hard to get Joe Biden out of the way and get him replaced. And that is exactly what's happened. And that coincides with July 5, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And look, there's people that say, look, if he had an emergency on Air Force One, he would have been greeted by ambulances. That's not true. The White House has been desperate over these last 3 weeks. And really, ultimately, it was actually 4 weeks because if you recall, the week before 4th of July, and this happened the day after 4th of July, they were lying to the media because he had his debate and he had to desperately convey a sense of strength because of his disastrous debate performance with President Trump. So they said it was a cold. Then we saw him go to Waffle House with his mouth wide open, touching everybody's food, shaking everybody's hand. Now they say he has COVID. Well, last time I checked, the Democrats were behaving like a bunch of mask Nazis during the COVID lockdown, and were telling us we had to social distance and wear masks, but Joe Biden is walking around with, air quote, COVID. No, this is not COVID. This is a man who is in serious cognitive decline, and they're using a so-called illness like COVID, where we expected people to take 10 days off for social distancing so that they can have an excuse to keep him away from the public while they expedite the transition of power. And so it won't be long before Kamala Harris is made president of the United States. There's a lot of fake news actually going around on the internet saying, oh, Biden's now in hospice care and he's going to die today. No. Well,
let's get to that, because that's what I want. I want to ask you about that, Laura. Laura, I want to ask you about that specifically from your reporting. Now, I believe that Joe Biden has a form of Parkinson's disease. We'll see if that bears out in the end. He has some cognitive decline, and he's had it since before 2020. You know that, I know that, and the American people know that. But what is the situation? Okay, so false reporting about being in hospice and dying today. What do you really think? What is your gauge on this?
Well, I think that he was already on track, right? Massive cognitive decline. The medical emergency on July 5th certainly expedited that decline. And as I reported on July 5th, I said when people were attacking me, I stand by my reporting, and Biden likely won't survive the next medical emergency. And if he does, his time will be drastically shortened, and Kamala Harris will be sworn in as president of the United States. I think we can expect to see over the next week or two Kamala Harris be sworn in. You saw late last night, in the late hours, she's announcing that she's received the delegates. Why is there such a rush to do this? We still don't have any clear answers from the White House about when Joe Biden is going to be returning to his duties. Yesterday, as I reported, he canceled 9 events that were scheduled over the next 2 weeks. Why is he canceling so many events over the next 2 weeks if he's going to be better and he simply has COVID? Because he does not have COVID. And personally, I don't think that Joe Biden is going to be alive post-January 2025. I'd be surprised if Joe Biden makes it all the way till January 2025. Of course, the president of the United States receives top-tier concierge medical treatment. But even with top-tier concierge medical treatment, anything can happen.
It's clear that he cannot execute the duties of the office of the presidency. At a minimum, we need the 25th Amendment today. Joe Biden should be excused from the role. And if he does pass away, which could be imminent, we don't know. If he died today, you wouldn't be surprised, neither would I. Then Kamala Harris becomes the 47th president and Donald Trump becomes the 48th. 30 seconds, real quick, for the last word.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it will be today, but I do think it will be relatively soon. But yeah, if people want to follow my continued reporting on this, they can follow me on X at Laura Loomer, on True Social as well, and on my website, loomer.com. And you can see all these screenshots of the White House memorandums that nobody's talking about amid the assassination attempt of Donald Trump and the transition to Kamala Harris.
Laura Loomer, really appreciate you coming on. Great reporting. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
At Laura Loomer. Check it out. At Laura Loomer. There you have the latest. I had a gut feeling it would be Donald Trump being the 48th president. She has a lot more to back it up. I'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show.